All right, y'all. So we're gonna talk about my top eight at Sundance. So new setup recording. We're trying new things on the channel starting in February. So we're just like experimenting with stuff here and there. And I know January was dry for us. We barely posted anything, but that's just because we were trying to get everything settled with how we want to run things this year. We want to do things a lot better, a lot bigger, more of. I would say I'm not trying to do less content, but I'm trying to do more high quality content for all of you. So hopefully this is a step forward into that. But let's talk about the top eight at Sundance. After 20 films, I conjured up this top eight, and it was kind of hard because I will say every film I watched, I enjoyed at Sundance. There was no film I would say was bad or anything like that. But of course, with a list, you always have to have a number one in the last place. But here are my top eight, and I'll talk about every single film I watched at Sundance. So stay tuned for that. And I also have to catch up on everything I watched at Fantastic Fest as well. I do reviews for y'all. But let's start off with number eight on our list, which is In a Violent Nature, directed by Chris Nash. And these top like the number eight and number seven, I think are going to be the most polarizing films of the year for sure. So, In a Violent Nature is directed by Chris Nash. It is a Canadian slasher film, but it very much so deconstructs the slasher film, as everybody's saying the same thing: the deconstruction of the slasher. This is what this is. So, I agree that this is a deconstruction of what the slasher film can be. Basically, what you have here is a film that follows a dead killer named Johnny, which is very reminiscent, of course, of Jason Friday the 13th series. There's no hiding that. What makes it different here is that this is a slow burner. And when I say slow, it is very slow, but at the same time, when it comes to those like brutal kills that eventually happen in the film, it makes up for that. And this is more of a Terrence Malick horror, which I've seen a lot of people describe it as, and I completely 100% agree with that. It is very much so a film that slowly unravels because you follow from the perspective of the killer. And of course, the killers, the slashers, don't necessarily talk unless you're talking about Mr. Freddy over there. They don't really go ahead and start doing all this banter, right? So, of course, if you're following this killer and everything, it's just going to go slow. But as we get into more of the film in itself, there are moments when it breaks apart from this narrative and this sort of POV and goes more into the movie vibes of it, and it really shines there as well. Like, honestly, if Chris Nash wanted to do a slasher and do it more in a movie, I think that they would definitely do a great job with that. So here's fingers crossed we see Chris Nash maybe attempt that as well, because I think there is a lot of potential there. They really know how to make their characters pop and stand out. I think that what Chris Nash did within Violent Nature with the new perspective and really focusing on those visuals and sort of the quietness and how scary isolation really is, I think they did a great job with that. So definitely one of those films that I really, really enjoyed at the festival. It was actually the first one we watched at the festival, and it definitely still stuck. Number seven on our list is going to be Handling the Undead. And let me tell you, Handling the Undead, I went in very excited for this film as a huge fan of John Ajvide Lindvik's work, including Let the Right One In, which is still one of my favorite films of all time. It's actually on my top four on Letterboxd, Culture Elixir at Letterboxd if you want to follow me. And I really enjoyed this one for the most part. I really think that John, who co-wrote this script as well with the director who is Thea Ishvestandal. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think they did an incredible job at writing this very moody piece, and one that feels very much so like a meditation on what grief and all of that is. So in this film you have Renate Rensby starring Vision Suruski, Vente Vorsum, Anders Danielsen Lai, Bahar Pars, Inessa de Custa, and like I said, I hope I'm pronouncing things right. I always try my best to pronounce these names as best as I can, but I think here in Handling the Undead, you have a film that is just going to be divisive. There's no one way or another. Either you're going to hate it or you're going to love it. My advice to you going into this, if you want to go in watching it with a fresh pair of eyes, if you have any interest in it, it is slow, like In a Violent Nature. They're both slow movies, but they're doing something different with it. And what I think here, where we have In a Violent Nature sort of reinventing what a slasher can be, we have Handling the Undead of what a zombie film can be. Because zombie films, for the most part, just go at 100 miles per hour with the zombies just going crazy, chewing people up, all that bad stuff. But here in Handling the Undead, we have a zombie film that asks you, what if one day your loved one who has passed away comes to the front door and is just there? What is your immediate reaction to all of that? How do you handle, how do you process all of that? And that's what it does here. It is slowly unraveling all of this because it shows us what exactly we're feeling at that moment, what happens next, how do you deal with all of that. And I think it's an interesting approach to it, but I definitely can see how this is divisive, and I still really appreciate for what it does. So that's why it's at number 7. At number 6 on our list, we have A Real Pain, which is Jesse Eisenberg's second film starring Kieran Culkin. And Kieran Culkin is about to take over the world. I'm telling you that right now. After the Emmy win, Succession, all of that, Kieran Culkin is definitely that actor you want to keep an eye out for, because what they deliver here is some of the most range I've seen in such a while. I think that range was shown in Succession, especially in the last season, but I think here it is really pushed forward, and we get Kieran Culkin like I don't think we've seen Kieran Culkin in a long time, and I really am excited for this film once it does find itself on the big screen. I think Searchlight bought this picture, so it's definitely going to go on the big screen, and I'm very excited to see how people react to this, because I think Jesse Eisenberg themselves as well really are showing more off, not just as a director, but as an actor in this. So I'm excited for A Real Pain and see how people react to that. So one of those to put on your list for sure. Number 5 on my list is Hitman. Although Hitman wasn't a Sundance premiere, it is in a spotlight category, which means they take like films from other festivals and stuff and put them at the forefront. Hitman is one of those films, do not miss out if you can watch it in a theater, because it is one of those theatrical experiences that I just want to go back and check it out again in the theater, because how fun it is. Hitman is directed by Richard Linklater, and it is also written by Richard Linklater and Glenn Powell, who also stars in this film, and it is semi-based on an article that Richard Linklater read about, not wrote, but read about, and turned this into a film. I think that this is one of those films that it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise, because going into this, I had some expectations of what to expect, but I hadn't seen a trailer or anything like that. And so when I went in and I saw what it actually was, I was completely like surprised, and I was just loving this film from beginning. It stars Glenn Powell and Audra Arjona, who have amazing chemistry, honestly. It is just fell throughout, and I think that this is definitely one of those films that everybody is just going to appreciate once it comes out. And Glenn Powell, for more roles, please. But definitely one of those films that really caught me by surprise at Sundance. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but I'm very excited for it to be getting some distribution this year. And like I said, Netflix better put this somewhere for a limited theatrical run, because if you can catch it in a theatrical run, please do so. It is so much fun with an audience. Number 4 on my list is going to be Pony Boy. This was one of the only films on this list, actually, besides A Real Pain, that I didn't get to see in a big screen. And I would have loved to see this with a crowd, because I think this is definitely one of those films, just like I said with Hitman and another film I'm about to talk about, that is just so much amplified by the audience. And this is going to be a film that is written by River Gallo, who also did a short on this. It is directed, however, by Esteban Arango. So we have River Gallo starring it as well, Dylan O'Brien, Victoria Perdetti, Murray Bartlett, and India Moore. And my goodness, this is just one of those films completely caught me by surprise. I was having this on my list like since Sundance got announced, whenever I first read about it and I heard about it, I needed to check it out. And then, of course, you know, with festivals and stuff, you make these plans and all of this, but then there's other stuff at the festival besides the films, events, talks, and all of that. So your schedule gets very much so condensed, because you have to like take into account that we can't just teleport from one place to another. We have to travel between things, because the festival at Sundance is set up with theaters all around, and so you have to walk through each one, and then there's things to do. So yeah, I'll talk about my Sundance experience as well for anybody who wants to know in a separate video, so stay tuned for that. But I really enjoyed Pony Boy. I saw it at home. Dylan O'Brien is just incredible. I really do think Dylan O'Brien is one of those actors that gets very much so not talked about as much, because they're able to really, like, in any role they're in that I've seen them, whenever I have the chance, they really get into that role and they really personify it so well. But basically what you follow is this sort of, I don't want to give too much away, but it's grimy, it's dreamy, it's crime, it's love, and it's about finding yourself. That's all I'll say. So definitely one of those films that I really enjoyed at Sundance. It's in my top 4. I mean, come on. Number 3 on my list is It's What's Inside. Now, It's What's Inside actually just got purchased by Netflix in a very huge bid, and I think it's still the biggest bid this year at Sundance. And It's What's Inside is directed by Greg Jordan, first feature film, and honestly, for a first feature, it's incredible. I think they've done some music video work and stuff in the past, but you have Brittany O'Grady, James Morosini, Alicia Debnam Carey, Devon Terrell starring in this, and just incredible work from everybody involved. Also, Gavin Leatherwood, Raina Hardesty, Nina Bloomgarden, David W. Thompson, Madison Davenport. And I named everybody on here because I think the whole cast is just incredible from top to bottom. I think that this film is going to be one of those films that everybody's going to be talking about this year. Will I say it's a Talk to Me level hype? Probably. I think that if any film felt like Talk to Me when I watched it last year at Sundance, it was going to be It's What's Inside. Crowd was going crazy, wild, loud, and it was just some of the best, like, audience experience I've had with a movie all festival. I think that this film is definitely one that if you hear about it, don't watch the trailer, don't read anything about it, just watch it. It's science fiction horror-ish thriller, and this film basically asks the question of this, well, it doesn't ask, well, maybe it asks questions, but I don't want to get too specific with it. I'll just tell you what the synopsis for Sundance read. A group of friends are having a pre-wedding party, and then their friend brings a mysterious suitcase, and everybody's trying to find out what's in it. That's going to change their life forever. That's all I'll say. That suitcase has something that's completely going to deviate everybody's life, and it's going to be just never the same again. And I really enjoyed this film. The music, the cinematography, the camera work was just visually stunning, and the acting was great as well. Because I can't give too much away. This is going to be premiering at South by. If you're at South by, definitely check it out because this got bought by Netflix. There's no word yet on a theatrical run, but I think this is one to check out with a crowd for sure. So if you have the chance, check it out. Definitely. It's What's Inside by Greg Jardin. Number two on my list is Exhibiting Forgiveness. This is a directorial debut from Titus Kaphar, and we have Andre Holland, Andra Day, Anjanou Ellie Taylor, and John Earl Jelks here doing incredible work. Oh my goodness, this film. So, Exhibiting Forgiveness is one of those films that I hadn't had on my list for Sundance to watch at Sundance. I was going to eventually watch it at home, I said. I just didn't know if I would be able to catch a showtime for it due to my schedule, how it was. Of course, like I said earlier, schedules change and vary depending on what's going on because you can make a schedule for weeks and weeks and then, of course, you have to change it. And that's what exactly happened that day. I had missed something prior and then I had an open window. So I said, okay, I have time to watch Exhibiting Forgiveness because they had like press screenings for it that day. Went to go watch this, and my goodness, I tell you, once I started watching this, halfway through, I was just like, this is just incredible work, honestly. And like I said, some films just reinvigorate your love and your passion for film because I'm somebody who wants to be a filmmaker as well. So I definitely really enjoyed this movie, how it unravels. The script is just so like incredibly written, and I believe Titus Kaphar as well wrote the script, but it's the acting in here as well that is just elevating it to another level because you have Andre Holland here just immediately becoming one of those actors you just have to keep an eye out for. Incredible work from Andre Holland, but of course everybody else involved here. But John Earl Yelks and Andre Holland just have some of the most incredible scenes together that I've seen in such a long time. And I really am thinking here, like, this is just like amazing. I really hope that this film finds distribution and people get to see it because I think it is one of those films that really takes a magnifying glass at your parents' forgiveness and just how exactly that is so much more complex than how simple a lot of movies make it out to be. And I really did think that the film felt so grounded and so real and from a place that I think only Titus could write themselves as well. It's definitely one of those films that I am like wanting to see again, but I don't know if I'm ready to be like heartbroken again. It is just incredible, honestly. But at number one in my list is I Saw the TV Glow. Oh man, when I tell you that this was one of those films that I was very hyped for. So as somebody who was okay with we're all going to the World's Fair, like I felt neutral about it. I like aspects of it. I think the music is great. I think the acting is great. But there's just some parts of the story I just didn't really find myself going all the way with. I was still excited to see what Jane Schoenbrun, who is a director of We're All Going to the World's Fair, was going to accomplish in their next feature, especially with A24 behind, Emma Stone, and all of that. And so going into Sundance, I was excited to see what I Saw at TV Glow was going to offer. This was actually, I believe, the fifth film we watched that week, and it was just a packed house as well. Of course, A24 film, Jane Schoenbrun, who had just done We're All Going to the World's Fair, which was also at Sundance. And so there was a lot of hype building up for this movie. When I tell you, as soon as this film started, I think into the first 5 minutes, I was completely like in a trance with it. I think Justice Smith, Bridget Lundy Payne in this are just incredible. From the beginning of the film to the end, there is a monologue that Bridget has that I was just thinking about the whole festival, even after we had finished watching it. And to this day, I still think about that. I want to rewatch that again on the big screen. There's just something magical about this film. It is told through almost like a dream vibe to it, sort of fragments as well. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. And it is just such a moody piece, but at the same time, it feels generational as well. And I think Jane has really honed on their craft with this, what they were doing in World, going to the World's Fair, and delivered something that just feels very much to their own unique vision. And I always appreciate that. When I feel like nobody else could have made this, that's when I think something's special. I think nobody else could have made what Jane did here. So where I saw the TV glow, I won't give too much away because I think this is a film to go in and just experience. It is incredible, and it's still my favorite film of the year so far and of Sundance. Probably my favorite film of both Sundances I have experienced. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for this one whenever A24 releases. But those are my top 8. Let me know what you think. Let me know which movie you're most excited for. Let me know if you went to Sundance, what movie you enjoyed the most. And if you're waiting for any of these to release, which one are you most anticipated for? Let me know in the comments below. But that's going to do it for me. Just wanted to give you my full thoughts on my top 8. I will definitely give full reviews for each one, so stay tuned for that. But as always, I'll see all of you next time. Make sure you're subscribed, comment, like, share. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers. We haven't reached it, but I think we can. So let's make sure we get to that. You can follow us on www.culturelixir.com for our articles. You can follow us on Letterboxd Culture Elixir, as well as our TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, all provided on the screen. So make sure you do all of that. And I'll see you next time. As always, stay safe, stay positive.